All right, everybody, welcome back. In today's video, this is day 3 of our series for Halloween cocktails. We're going live with this one, and I've figured a couple things out, like chat, for example, and the audio scenario. So I'm pretty excited about today and how it's going to go. So if you haven't tuned in for the last couple days, no worries. What we've done so far is actually to... So if you haven't tuned in for the last couple days, no worries. What we've done so far... Got a bit of an echo in there. So yeah, what we've done so far is come up with the concepts of the cocktails that we are going to make today. So we went and came up with a couple ideas. The first one is going to be a Blood Moon margarita, which is really cool and exciting. It's going to be really vibrant and colorful. And the second one we're going to do is kind of a riff on a tiki cocktail called the Zombie. So those are the two cocktails that we've chosen for our Halloween punch-style cocktails. So that was day 1. Day 2, we have made all of the ingredients that we're going to need in order to execute these cocktails. And the hope and the dream is that these cocktails you could go ahead and scale up for your Halloween party. And now I do have to apologize. One of the drawbacks of going live is that some of the circumstances for recording may not be ideal. For example, the trash truck is over there. So we may get a little bit of a noise, but that is what we did yesterday. Was we made all of the ingredients and all the syrups and started some infusions in order to make today, to make the cocktails today. So those are the two cocktails we're going to make: the Riff on a Zombie and the Blood Moon Margarita. And like I mentioned, you can scale these recipes up for a punch-style cocktail for your Halloween party. So the whole idea is that you don't have to bartend all day when you're hosting a bunch of people at your house. You can do this in a punch style, and then the people can help themselves, and you can do as much of this stuff in advance as possible, freeing you up to intermingle with your guests and have a great, festive, memorable party where people said that was phenomenal and those cocktails were killer. So that is the hope, that's the dream, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So the very first cocktail we're going to make is going to be the Zombie. Now, I've laid out all of our ingredients here. It's kind of a nice kind of twist on a zombie. So we're going to be utilizing some different rums in here. But I really encourage you to have a lot of fun with this. If you don't have these exact ingredients, I would not worry about it. Utilize some of these as kind of general ideas of what you want to do. You don't need to have 3 different rums in this. You don't have to have expensive rums. You could utilize whatever you have and whatever is going to be inside of your budget for doing this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and get my glass out. I'm going to set up my workstation actually with my tins that I'm going to be using. So these are the bar products that we make at abarabove.com. So if you see some barware that you really like, that's where you can find all the barware I'm going to be using today. So I've got my shaker tins. I'm going to need a jigger, a strainer. I have a fine strainer out already. This is going to be used for measuring my ingredients for my cocktails. This is for shaking, obviously straining. And with anything that has fresh pulp and juice in it, we're going to need a fine strainer to make sure that we don't let that pulp get into our final cocktail. It just makes it a little more professional, a little more chef's kiss when it comes to that. So those are all of my ingredients, and those are all the things I'm going to need. I'm sure I'm missing something, but let's do our best, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our cheater tin here. This is the smaller of the 2 tins. It's called a cheater tin for some reason. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my very first rum. So this is one of my favorite rums on the entire planet. This is a rum called Dorley's 12-year. If you want something that is just vibrant molasses and rum in a bottle, it doesn't get much better than this. And as far as the cost goes, I want to say it's like 25 to 30. So it is maybe a little bit more on the expensive side, especially when you consider the price of rum. But the quality that you get from this is absolutely insane. It is so good. This one I oftentimes just sip because it's so delicious. So on this one, we're going to do about 1.5 ounces of rum just to go ahead and get this party started. So that's going to go right into our cheater tin there. Now this is a little bit more of a boozy style cocktail. I mean, it's a zombie. We're using 3 different rums, so you can definitely pare some of this back. And one of the things I also recommend is if you are worried about some of your guests just going kind of all in on cocktails that night. You could also take away some of the rum and use a non-alcoholic rum as a substitute, or some of the other non-alcoholic ingredients in here as well. And that's going to go ahead and drop that proof and let something that might be very intense on the alcohol side, like the zombie, to be a lot more sessionable, a lot more nurseable, and something you can enjoy through the entire night. So consider swapping out some of the alcohol for a non-alcohol substitute that still provides a ton of flavor. All right, so next, this is where things are going to get a little tricky. We are using a beautiful product called Amaro Nonino. This is an Amaro, and this is much more kind of like that toffee notes and bittersweet orange notes. A little bit of caramel and some chocolate, like light chocolate notes in this one. This happens to be one of my favorite rums, or Amaro, on the entire planet, but it is also very expensive. If you don't feel like using something like this, Amaro Lucano, all kinds of different styles of Amaro are much cheaper. But for this cocktail, I'm kind of going for maximum flavor, so I went with Amaro Nonino. Ounce and a half of that goes into the glass. Off to the side here. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and save. We're not going to be doing 151 in this one here. I feel like it's just too aggressive, and I am concerned that if I make this for a bunch of people, it's going to get crazy, it's going to get out of hand. And if that's a party you want to host, that's cool, man. But I've done those parties before, and I'm a little too old for that kind of stuff, so I'm going to drop the proof down a little bit. One of the other ingredients that we're going to use is this product called falernum. Now this is basically like an infusion. It's something that you can make at home. We didn't have the time to make this product. It takes about a week or at least a couple days if you want to go ahead and make this product yourself. So I just recommend buying it. So we're going to use about half an ounce of this guy. And this is really low in alcohol as well. Okay, so we have most of our ingredients here. One of the other ingredients that you're going to want to do is a dash of Pernod or absinthe. I happen to have absinthe, and this is going to give it this really nice kind of licorice-y quality in the background that is just iconic with this particular cocktail. All right, so that's going off to the side there. So if you're just joining us, we are making kind of a adaptation of the zombie for a Halloween punch-style cocktail. I'm going to go ahead and execute this recipe now for you guys to show you how to build this thing, and then you can scale it up in advance for your party. Okay, so now is where we start getting into more of our fresh ingredients and some of the ingredients that we've made in the previous live sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 full lime in here. So we're using about 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice in this, which is about 1 full lime, especially when they're nice and in season like this. All right, so there's that. Now comes the part for the sweetener. So this is a product called Dawn's Mix. This is what we made on Tuesday. And basically what it is I made a little bit of a sweeter style cinnamon syrup. So I think it was like a, not quite rich simple syrup, but it was like a 1.5 sugar to 1 ounce or 1 portion of sugar. So, or water. And so it made this nice rich style syrup with a ton of cinnamon flavor. And then you go 2 to 1 on grapefruit juice and that cinnamon syrup. So this is what Dawn's Mix is. So with this, we are going to go ahead and add half, I believe it's half. Let me take a look here. Yep, half an ounce. Right into our shaker tin there. All right, I believe we are just about done. So let's go ahead, shake this up. Let me taste it real quick. Not too bad. I do have some bitters over here. I'm going to add that in there real quick. Dash of bitters. And if you've never used bitters before, bitters is basically the spice cabinet for bartenders. They come in all different shapes, sizes, flavors, you name it. And there's probably a bitters that has that same profile in it. This one, Angostura, is probably the most recognized one with this oversized label here. And what it provides is baking spice flavors, so cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, and that's going to reinforce all the other ingredients that we have in this particular cocktail. So let's go ahead and give this one more try. Just need a little bit more of a kick to it. All right. That's what it needed. That's big and rich and round now. That cinnamon just is cutting right through that cocktail. That's good. It's definitely hot, but the next step of shaking this cocktail is going to go ahead and add the much needed water. It's going to bring all those ingredients together, and it's also going to allow those bitters and some of the more aromatic ingredients in here kind of blossom and bloom. So it's going to get a lot more fragrant as we add some ice and chill this thing down as well. So I'm going to go ahead and shake that, and I apologize in advance. The audio is right here, so I may put this off to the side so it doesn't break your eardrums here. And with any cocktail that you make, you definitely want to add as much ice as you possibly can. It's going to get colder that way. It's not going to dilute nearly as much. If you only put a little bit of ice in there, it's going to over dilute and it's not going to get nearly as cold. So ice is a bartender's best friend by far. So I'm going to go ahead and sit this aside real quick. Just smack that. I'm not going to shake it yet. But I am going to go ahead and prepare the ice for this particular cocktail. So most tiki cocktails will use crushed ice. This is something that you don't have to have, but it really is nice because it keeps that cocktail very, very, very cold. So if you're not going to be shaking these at your party for every single guest, which I hope and pray that you don't, the way that you're going to build this thing out is just scale up the recipe, and then you're going to go ahead and add about 20 to 30% water and put it in the fridge the day of. Like in the morning, put it in the fridge, add the water to it, and let it chill for a very long time. So what's going to happen is all of those ingredients are going to get to the same basic temperature as it would be in a serving cocktail, and it's going to get the right hydration, it's going to get the right water dilution in there. So you're not going to have to shake cocktails all night long. And if you put a nice big large format ice cube in your punch bowl, it's going to dilute really, really slowly. So I would aim for about 20% water in here instead of the ice if you're going to do this punch bowl style. And then you can always kind of creep up to the water level as you see fit. Once again, it's going to dilute and add if you add water, if you have that large format ice cube, which I highly recommend that you do. So there's that. And what I'm going to do now is going to go ahead for this particular cocktail, since I'm only making one, is I'm going to go ahead and make the crushed ice. So I'm going to grab one of my favorite tools here, the A Bar Above Lewis bag. It has Velcro on both sides and it is big, so you can actually make 3 or 4 cocktails at the same time instead of only having enough ice for doing one. The other thing I'm going to be utilizing is it goes in combination with this giant, really cool, awesome hammer. So I'm going to load this thing up and then I'm going to take this microphone off me. All right, and the way this guy works is just going to seal it like this. And I'm going to put this on the floor, beat the living snot out of it with this hammer, and turn it into much smaller ice. But I'm going to do that with the microphone way over there because it's going to get real loud. And I'll come back for it here in a second. All right. That's all it takes. We're going to put this off to the side. So that's all it takes. I'm just going to put the ice to the side and I'm going to go ahead and shake this cocktail, and we'll get to garnishing and serving this guy. So once again, I'm going to put the mic over here. All right. Okay, hopefully your ears are intact. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off and get to garnishing this guy. Now, if you guys are hosting a party for Halloween, let me know in the chat down below if you have any cocktails that you've mapped out that you want to serve to your guests. I'd kind of love to see what you guys are doing for sure. So put it in the comments, and I'm excited to see what everyone's doing, or if you're going to have a really cool costume. Definitely want to hear about that too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fine strain this. This thing is full of a little bit of pulp from the limes, but more importantly, it's got those little tiny ice shards, and I want to go ahead and kind of preserve the integrity of this cocktail. But look at the color on this thing. It is so cool. Now here we go. That is a beautiful cocktail. Now, as far as finishing this cocktail off and garnishing it, there are a lot of things that you could do in advance. One of the things that I actually mentioned before is if you just happen to be a gardener and you have snapdragons and they're just now about going to pod or seed, when you look at the snapdragon pods, they actually look like little skulls. I actually have one here I found at Home Depot. I will see if I can show you real quick, but they're very, very small. So when you look at them like this, they look like little tiny alien skulls. And these are really cool. Could be a really cool garnish effect if you just drape it on the side or use a clothespin to it, or you can have a lot of fun. So I just want to show this off to you. These guys are really small. Usually they're a little bit bigger. But once you see that pattern, it's pretty cool. You can even look it up online, Snapdragon pods or seeds, and you should be able to see it. So one of the other things I'm going to do is just go ahead and add one of these guys right to the cocktail. Just reusing some of the other ingredients that we have here. That, you could do a lime wedge on there, you could do a cherry, you could do whatever you want. And one of the other ways that you can make this a little bit more Halloween is think of some of those thematic garnishes and add them to them. Now, I'm not saying gummy worms or gummy bears, skulls, whatever you want, but you can add other interesting effects in there as well. But if that's what you're going for, by all means, knock yourself out. You could even do dehydrated blood oranges, which we're going to do for our next cocktail as well. So you can add a lot of color, a lot of effect, and take these cocktails up a notch from a garnish perspective. One of the things that I would do if I'm doing punch bowl is on your punch bowl, put it on a sheet pan or something that you can hold a lot of liquid in. And then I would add dry ice to that and then add water to that sheet pan with the serving vessel on top of that. Now, I say this in every video that I ever mention dry ice. You never want the dry ice to be in the glass where you are consuming a liquid or food. The reason for that is if you ingest dry ice into your body, it will absolutely destroy your stomach and it will freeze your intestines and destroy them. So think of it like instant frostbite, but from the inside. So highly recommend not utilizing that in the vessel you're actually going to serve food or drinks in. Put it around it for that smoke effect. You could also have a smoke cocktail chamber to add that kind of beautiful smoky essence to a cocktail, if that's kind of the lane you're going for as well. But I want to go ahead and try this guy and see where we're at. Oh yeah, that is killer. That is so good. You get this rich kind of richness to it. Get the cinnamon in there from the bitters and the syrup. You get that grapefruit profile, a nice little hit of acid, but then you get this nice weight to the cocktail as well. Those ingredients are really very much amazing together. And there's not much I would do to change this thing, to be completely honest. I may add another dash of bitters, or actually when I'm making the cinnamon syrup, I would actually use a molasses or brown sugar instead of just straight white sugar. And that's going to really reinforce the flavors of the rum that's going in here as well. So those are the small changes that I would make. Other than that, this thing is killer. It is so good. Cheers. I'm telling you, nothing says celebration like a good tiki cocktail. You can't help but smile when you're drinking them. So good. Okay, so the next ingredient or next cocktail that we are going to make is the Blood Moon Margarita. Now this one is going to be really visually beautiful and striking, and have a very nice dramatic effect to it. So the ingredient that we made yesterday is actually this really beautiful, rich, deep beet syrup. And that's going to give it the blood effect in the cocktail as well. The other thing is it has this nice sweet earthiness to it. And I'm going to go ahead and muddle a little serrano chili in there as well when I make the cocktail. Now this is going to give me a little bit more depth of flavor, and chilies and tequila are a match made in heaven. They're going to go really, really good together. So that is the cocktail that we are going to make next. That is going to be the Blood Moon Margarita. So the tequila that I'm going to be using is this one. It is delicious. It's Mi Gente. It is a delicious Blanco tequila. It has this fresh agave notes to it, and it is screaming good. So you don't have to use this particular tequila. It just happens to be one I had and one I've been looking forward to utilizing in the back bar. So if you find a really good tequila, or if you have a favorite of your own, by all means use that in your cocktail. I'm going to put this off to the side, and the reason why is because I've actually infused some. So I really want to preserve the color of this cocktail, and I want to make it deep, and I want to make it rich, and I don't want to dilute the color of this. And I'm afraid that if I only utilize a little bit of this syrup, that's going to be the problem. It's going to go ahead and start to get a little bit like translucent. It's not going to have that depth of color, and it's just going to be like a meh cocktail. And nobody likes meh, right? Meh doesn't taste good. So what I've done here is I've used the same Mi Gente tequila, and I have, where is it? Hibiscus, dried hibiscus. This guy here. And this is going to give it this bright purple, deep purple color, and it's going to go ahead and reinforce the color that's already in the glass. Now, if anybody has used this product before, you also know that it provides a nice acidic hit whenever you infuse it. But if you're worried about infusion and time, please don't worry about it. 5 minutes before this live started, I went ahead and introduced the two ingredients together. So I added the hibiscus and I poured some tequila over it, and within, I don't even know, 15 minutes, that's the color we're getting. And I would not do this, well, you could do it overnight if you wanted to, but the point is, it's not going to take you a long time. Normally infusions takes weeks. This is going to take a matter of minutes. So if you're rushing before the party and you want to add the extra step, by all means, it doesn't take a long time, but it will reinforce the color for sure. So let's go ahead and start with our garnish. And this is an important part of any margarita. The garnish that we're going to do is actually black sea salt. Now, I just went and got this over at a very fancy kitchen store, and I spent way too much money on this. So if you're looking for this, I would probably recommend taking a look online on Amazon, because at that very fancy store, I got this 2.5 ounce bottle of sea salt, and it was $16. If I had more time, I would have ordered this from Amazon, even next day, because that's why we love Amazon. And it would have been much cheaper for a much higher volume of salt as well. So that's what I would recommend doing. And you can find our bar products over at Amazon as well. But if you're looking for cool stuff, we always recommend going straight to our site, abarabove.com. You're going to see all of our barware. If you like this black one, especially for Halloween, highly recommend it. We also offer a lot of training courses that go really deep into specific subject matters. So yeah, definitely head over to shop.abarabove.com. Take a look for yourself. We got some cool stuff over there. So I'm actually going to grab a different glass, something a little bit bigger for this particular cocktail. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's do this one. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and moisten this rim with some lime juice and add that salt right to the rim. And I want to pack that thing on there as much as possible. So this was a little bit on the wet side, the salt was, so it didn't quite stick as much as I'd like, but it's still pretty good. So I'm going to add this off to the side. And now we can go ahead and start building our Blood Moon Margarita. So grab our cheater tin, put this guy off to the side, and let's go ahead and grab our ingredients and get after this cocktail. So with this one, I'm going to go ahead and use my hibiscus infused tequila, but I'm only going to do 1 ounce of that. Then I'm going to add a bit of mezcal as well. So I'm going to find a really beautiful mezcal in here. Yep, this guy, Vago Ensemble. This is a nice smoky style mezcal, and I'm going to add that in there as well. This might actually kill this bottle, which is going to make me sad because I love this mezcal. Ah, little drop in there. I'll save that for after the live. All right, so that's going in. Still got a beautiful color in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my syrup. So I'm going to do about 3/4 of an ounce of syrup in here. Going to do a little bit of Cointreau or triple sec. And this is going to bring a little bit of orange to this cocktail. There we go. And now we're going to add our lime juice. And I actually am going to be doing half lime, half blood orange. And if you have not seen blood oranges, they kind of look like normal oranges on the outside, maybe a little bit darker. They definitely have a wide variety of what they look like, if you can see that. Some are much more red on the outside, and some look like just kind of darker oranges. But when you open them up inside is where you see kind of that effect. I'm actually going to choose one that's a little bit darker and see if we have a little bit more of that red inside this particular one. Just to kind of showcase what it would look like. So there we go. So yeah, if you're hand selecting these at the store, make sure to get the ones that are much redder on the outside. Looks like it's probably reflective on the inside as well. But these are really beautiful. Now they do taste like oranges. If I remember correctly, they taste more like a cross between oranges and grapefruits, maybe tangerine and grapefruit. Really beautiful taste, but the color in it is absolutely beautiful. So we're definitely going for that deep red effect here. And I'm going to do a little bit of lime juice. And I'm going to see what that balance is on this guy. So I would probably do about half an ounce of blood orange and half an ounce of lime juice. Maybe a little bit more on the lime juice. That's good. We're definitely getting there. That's yummy. Man, that mezcal is just coming in. It is so good. But you can already see, I'm not sure if you can, but it is beautiful. It is dark. It is definitely that color of blood in there. And it's going to go really well with that black garnish. And then we can do a orange, blood orange on the side as well. So once again, to preserve your ears, when I go to shake this cocktail, I'll go ahead and take this microphone off too. So once again, you can prep your glassware or your serving glass in advance with a black salt. So that way all your friends and guests have to do is add some fresh ice and pour it over the fresh ice. Everything is going to be done in advance. You don't have to worry about doing it in that specific moment. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, or off to the side. Ooh, I think you're gonna like it. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and strain this guy out and go from there. So this is going to look really beautiful. Look at that. Then I'm going to go ahead and garnish this guy. But honestly, it doesn't need much of a garnish at all, because look at that contrast with the black and the red. So if you dehydrate that salt even more, it's going to pop even more. So there we go. But I'm going to go ahead and add one more garnish here and choose a really nice blood orange to add to the side. Sorry, 1 second. Can you go inside? Okay. Thank you. All right, and close the door, please. So there we go, a beautiful blood orange. And that is how I would serve it. So that is the Blood Moon Margarita, and the true test is in the taste. So let's give this a taste. That is crazy good. Holy cow. I always put a napkin on the side here because my hands are always sticky and wet, but that's really good. That is crazy good. So you get a lot of sweet earthiness, both from the agave products that we're using here, the mezcals and the tequila, but the beet, that beet is nice and sweet and earthy, and it really goes well with this particular cocktail. Sorry, my son walked in just a second ago. He just got off school, and I really want to go hang out with him, but we also don't want to have him on our channel until he is much, much older, if he decides to do that. So, but yeah, that is the cocktail, and I gotta say, man, this is so good. 100% put that on the cocktail menu and sell a ton of them. That's incredible. Now, if you don't like beets, I get it. A lot of people don't. But the beet flavor in this is not very strong. I just use straight beet juice, and only a little bit, because beets are very, very just intense in their coloring. So a little bit goes a long way. Then, but you also reinforce it with all of the other colors that we're adding in here. We're choosing those colors to really reinforce and deepen that red and preserve it as much as possible. And the result of it is fantastic. I forgot the serranos. But if you were to make the syrup and add the serrano in there while it's kind of cooling and off of the boil, or a jalapeno or habanero, depending on the spice, or even a mixture of different peppers in there, it would go really, really well as also, because you're going to get that sweet earthiness, you're going to get that agave flavor, you're going to get that hint of orange in there as well, a little tartness from the hibiscus, and then it's all going to come through with a kind of just a tingle on the tongue with the serrano. I think that would be a really great addition. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and cut some up, muddle it real quick, shake this just for a flash second. I forgot the audio. So I'm sure you heard most of that, but I'm going to go ahead and reshake this guy with some serrano just to add that pop of heat to it. And if you know serranos, you know a little bit goes a long way. So just 2 small coins to that. And I'm just going to go ahead and muddle this with a little bit of ice. And I can already smell that kind of green, sharp vegetable notes that fresh peppers always have. I'm going to dump this guy right back in there. Take this guy off. Just dump it right back in. And we're back. All right, so a little bit of that serrano is going to go a long way. That is good. Just a faint hint of heat in there. Like I said, you can add as much as you want. I would recommend putting it in the syrup, or you even have a little squeeze bottle off to the side of just a serrano syrup or pepper syrup. And then your guests can choose if they want to add a little bit of heat to it or not. You can do a little flavor experiment, have 3 different levels of spice to there. One that's strictly jalapeno, maybe a mild jalapeno, take out half the seeds and half the ribs. One full-blown jalapeno, all the seeds, all the ribs, put it in the syrup and cook it. And then you can do something that is maybe serrano with a little bit of jalapeno as well to round out some of the flavors. And then they can kind of pick and choose on how much spice they want. That would be a really fun concept for a party as well. But as far as just the cocktail itself, these are solid cocktails. I would highly recommend that you serve either of these at your party. Both have very different visual effects, and they're both very stunning, and most importantly, they are tasty. So people are going to be talking about these cocktails for sure. Now, if you don't want to use beet, hold on, I got to have another sip of this. So good. So good. If you don't want to use beet, obviously the hibiscus, you can just use that. It will have a nice color to it. But you could also use prickly pear. So you can find that in a puree form at a lot of stores, and some syrups as well. So I think you can even find that at Bevmo or something like that. So that could be another choice to add the same color and the same drama to your particular cocktails. So yeah, those are a couple different options that I would recommend. Now, as far as batching these guys up, my tips for that, if you don't want to break the bank as far as spending a lot of money on alcohol or preserving it if you're not going to utilize it all, what I would recommend is making a base of it, right? And what I mean by base is everything but the alcohol. So in this case, you're going to do the acid, you're going to do the syrup, and if you want to, you could do the falernum because it's a fairly inexpensive product. I think this whole bottle cost me about $20. So you can add as much of those ingredients as you feel comfortable with as a batch, right? So let's say you do a 1 liter batch of just that, put it in the fridge, and then add that 20% water to get it nice and cold. And then you can put bottles of rum that you're going to use or Amaro that you're going to use in the fridge as well. So that's going to get nice and cold also. And then you can refill everything out as you need it. So maybe you do a 375 or half a bottle of rum recipe to 1 container and put them in different containers. That's how I've done it in the past because I've thrown away so much alcohol for private events and other kind of corporate events that it always kind of breaks my heart just putting bottles and bottles of spirits literally down a drain on the street. So if you don't want to just throw away a bunch of alcohol that doesn't get consumed or have the same cocktail in a freezer or fridge for a year, that's how I would approach it. Make that non-alcoholic base and really start to formulate it out as far as serving sizes. So half a bottle of one spirit, half a bottle of the other spirit, 1 container of this. And I would just put them in a bunch of different glass containers. The same thing applies to this particular cocktail as well. You can set out a nice little garnish bar. With this one, you can go ahead and add the black salt to whatever cup you're going to be serving it in. Have a bunch of dehydrated blood oranges would be my suggestion. Or fresh blood oranges as well, because it adds a nice drama to it. But these are really, really delicious drinks that I think your guests would love. Yeah, that Serrano is really, really nice and coming through. Now, when to do this? I would start preparing the syrups and everything like 2 days beforehand. Just like soups, the longer they sit, the more they kind of get integrated and the flavors really start to deepen. Then the day before, I would go ahead and start mathing everything out as far as what I need, how big of a serving size of spirit versus a container of mix I would need. So that way I could just do it on the fly. I have a game plan in mind. Make sure you freeze your large service ice if you're going to do that, or buy it the day of, so that way it will be really slow on the dilution also. So I would do that probably, if you're going to make your own ice, 3 days in advance, honestly. You can also freeze a bunch of stuff inside the ice cube, which is always cool. It's a really eye-catching thing to do. But if you're going to be buying, just buy the day of. If you're doing dry ice, hunt around because finding dry ice can be a bit of an issue and a bit of a problem, actually. So definitely bring a cooler with you if you're going to be buying dry ice. And remember, don't ever put dry ice in your cocktails. Put it around your cocktails for the smoke effect. But yeah, I would go ahead and make the syrups 2 days in advance. If you're doing ice, large format, 3 days in advance. at least. And then the day of or the day before, go ahead and start portioning out your recipes, writing down everything. I promise you, just on a piece of tape like this, write down the serving sizes, how you're going to fill it up, how you're going to replenish it, because when you're in that moment of entertaining people, your brain turns off. You're in social engagement mode and host mode. You're not in mixology mode. You're not in bartending mode. You're not in cocktail mode, and you're going to forget the recipe, and you're just going to start shoveling things in a mixing bowl, and that's where the balance is going to start to shift a little bit. And if you just write it, even on the thing of how to actually make one, a whole batch, then you could just honestly send one of your friends to the fridge and say, do me a favor, make another batch of that tiki drink. The recipe is on the container. It will save you so much time, energy, and headache, and just give you that mental bandwidth to really be present for your friends and your party as well. So that is a hot tip for you guys. Write the recipe or how to make the batch in the moment on a piece of tape and stick it right to your batch. And your bottles as well. So that way it limits all the transactions that you're going to need. And then make sure everything is in the fridge, all in the same area, and is easily accessible, because you want to go ahead and get the temperature down as much as possible to serving temp, because you don't need that water dilution anymore. You've accounted for it in your base, that 20% extra water. So that's pretty much it. That's how I would approach this. Two stellar cocktails. Honestly, these are so good, and they really kind of fit the theme. If you can find some really cool garnishes that really fit the style of cocktail or a party that you're going to be hosting, even better. So I know I've done a lot of talking here, and I haven't quite got the chat up on this video, but I am really curious to see what everybody's doing. So if you do make either of these cocktails for a party, put on social media, tag us at a bar above. That's our handle on basically every platform. And I'd love to see what you guys are doing. And if you guys found this live session interesting and exciting, let me know in the comments as well. This is something I'm considering doing, maybe hosting a happy hour a couple times a month, making some really fun, cool, innovative, creative cocktails, and we could have some fun, some banter. I promise I'll get the chat up so I can actually see if people are commenting, giving thumbs up, all that kind of stuff in the future. One step at a time. This is my third live, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So happy Halloween, you guys. Be safe, have fun, create some cool memories, and more importantly, create some cool cocktails. Cheers. I'm gonna have a hard time choosing which one. I think it's this one. This one's pretty good. Cheers, everyone.